Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to This Is Not a Drill. My name is Melina Abdullah. I'm an organizer with Black Lives Matter, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, and grateful to be here. We apologize for getting a little bit of a late start, and that's because we were rushing in from work and thinking that we could make things happen that we couldn't make happen, like fly, right? Or make time stop, right? But what we're going to be talking about tonight on This Is Not a Drill is why Jackie Lacey must go. Everybody, we hope at least all of our viewers know that when you go to the polls in November, you know, in a month from now, oh my God, today is October 1st, voting day. Election day is November 3rd. So we have literally 1 month, right? And many of you who watched the debates last night or Tuesday night were not enthusiastic about either candidate, right? I mean, one was clearly more problematic than the other in just the terms of how blatant he was with his white supremacy. But I think that a lot of voters are wondering, well, why should I vote? Well, if you live in Los Angeles County, you should vote because we have the opportunity to oust Jackie Lacey, who is the district attorney of this county. Many folks know that for the last 3 years, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles has been in front of her office every single week. We now have about 1,000 people who come out with us every week and demand that she go. And so we're going to be talking about why Jackie Lacey must go, why Jackie Lacey must go, hoping that if Joe Biden doesn't mobilize you to the polls, and I don't think there's anybody who's actually voting for Joe Biden. I think people who are voting in the presidential race are voting against Donald Trump. But if that's not enough of a motivator for you, then we need the district attorney's race to be the motivator, to get you to the polls. It's important that you vote on November 3rd. And so what we're going to be talking about is all of the reasons why every single Wednesday, Black Lives Matter teams up now with Build Power. We have for at least the last 6 months officially, but much longer than that. In life, right? So we've been working with Kendrick Sampson, who's joining us tonight, who's an actor. Many of you all know him from Insecure, from How to Get Away with Murder, from, what is it, Miss Juneteenth, right? For lots of stuff. And I think almost as many people probably know you at this point from your work in the community, your community work. And so Kendrick Sampson is going to join us. He's here, but he's going to be speaking with us about why he gives up every single Wednesday afternoon and has made this a priority in his political work to make sure we get rid of Jackie Lacey. We also have Tabatha Jones Jolivet, who's another organizer with Black Lives Matter and leads the Black Lives Matter Los Angeles chapter's research team. We recently launched prosecutekillercops.org. If someone could drop that in the chat, prosecutekillercops.org, which painstakingly documents every single killing that's happened since Jackie Lacey has been in office. 622 names, 622 human beings whose lives have been stolen by police officers, by law enforcement, by sheriffs since Jackie Lacey was elected almost 8 years ago. That's far more than any other locale in the country, and is the main reason why Jackie Lacey must go. And who helped us recognize the need to shine a light on Jackie Lacey, to protest Jackie Lacey, is a tiny package and a powerhouse punch. That's Sister Trisha Michael, who's with us. She is the twin sister of Keisha Michael, whose life was stolen by Inglewood police back in 2016. And Trisha has been fighting on the front lines ever since. She's a member of Black Lives Matter. And after we were successful, after more than a year of fighting to get those officers fired from Inglewood police, Trisha said, no, that's not enough. because those 5 officers who stole the life of Keisha Michael, along with her partner, Marquinton Sandlin, leaving 7 children without parents, right? They can just get a job in another locale. They could go from Inglewood to Carson, or Inglewood to LAPD, or Inglewood to the sheriff. And so Trisha said we have to focus on Jackie Lacey and demand that she charge these officers with murder. And if she doesn't, then she should be held accountable. So Trisha Michael is here, and we're grateful for your vision, Sister Trish, and grateful for all your work and really guiding us into this work that we're now into. And so I'd love to start with you, Sister Trisha Michael, first by thanking you for your vision, and then second by asking you to pull in, to invoke the spirit of your sister, your twin sister, Keisha Michael. Can you tell us a little bit about Keisha and her life, right? We don't want you to necessarily recount the theft of her life, but we want you to talk about Keisha and the spirit that she brings to this work.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to be a part of this with you guys as well. Keisha was a loving mother, a nurse. She used to work with in a convalescent home in Macklin Heart. She had different professions. She enjoyed life. She always took her kids to different places, parks, picnics. She liked to smile. She used to love to. She just was a loving, caring mother of 3 boys. It's just like her heart is in me. Like, to lose a twin sister like that, somebody I grew up with, somebody I slept in the bed with, somebody I talked to on the phone every minute, is the reason I do this. Her life was just stolen, and I just want police to be accountable for her life, and the way that they did her, and hold accountable for what was said about her, and the good things wasn't really portrayed in the news, and they just try to shine the bad stuff after they die. And I just want everybody to know that her life mean everything, you know.
Indeed, she does mean everything. And I love what you said about her heart is in you. And for our guests, Tabatha, it would be great if you can turn off your camera when you're not talking, and just to lift up that we have sign language interpreters from Pro Bono ASL. We're grateful that you partner with us on all of these. The reason we ask our guests to turn off their cameras is it allows for more room on the screen for folks who are speaking, including our sign language interpreters. So if you're not speaking, it would be great. It would be great. So Trish, we're talking, so please keep your camera on. I just wanted to underscore something that you just said about her heart being with you, her heart being in you, right? Can you tell us what that means for you? Like, do you feel like she wants this work to move forward in her name? Is that what you mean by that?
Yes, and just being along with you, Black Lives LA, just getting them 5 officers fired was a big thing. It just showed that the irresponsibility from the Inglewood department, but also Jackie Lacey have the opportunity to move that farther and prosecute these killer cops. And she have not done that. And it's hard. It's these officers is fired. If they're fired, you feel like, okay, you should charge them. They know that this was Jackie Lacey know that this was a terrible act for all of these officers to get fired, and not being able to hold them accountable is what's really like, it's hurtful, because like, she's here because I feel her in me. I fight this fight because I feel like her life needs to be shown that this is what she wanted. This is what I feel. This is what my body and my heart and my mind is telling me. And And I'm glad like we're pushing for this. And Jackie Lacey just has to go. Like, she was shot 13 times. Marquita was shot 7 times. And just how gruesome of the murder and shooting up the car that they was unconscious. Shooting them up while they're in the car over 100 times with gun, assault rifles, and a handgun. And now that we got these officer fires, she just need to do her job and set an example. It's 600 and some plus people have been killed by police, and I feel like she's just in the office not doing her job as a district attorney.
So what's really powerful for me, and I think so many of us who aren't biological family members, is your willingness to lead this work through your pain. You know, I have a brother and I have a sister, and you know, I can't imagine, and you're a twin.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I can't imagine, and we're sorry and we love you, and we're grateful, though, so grateful for you, because after we got those officers fired, we were ready to, okay, that's
right.
a victory.
Right.
And you said, oh, no.
Right.
Wait a minute, we ain't done.
Right.
And your vision is really about, and I say this often to family members, like, you've stayed in this work. It's not just about Keisha, though.
No.
Right? Because you already got a determination letter from Jackie Lacey that she's not going to bring charges, right?
Right. Well,
it's about everybody else. Like, what you're doing, you know, protects everybody else, protects my sister and my daughters and so many of the rest of us. And for you to be willing to struggle through your pain, and many times I see you like being asked to tell the story of what happened to Keisha over and over and over again. And that can be re-traumatizing. And every time you say, okay, when I say, well, a reporter wants to talk to you, you always say, okay, you know, and how that protects us. And I see what you're doing right now. And you're a mother yourself.
Yes, right? I have 3 girls.
Yes. And I'm just grateful. We're just grateful for you, Trish.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you, and I appreciate being a part of this with you and helping other families. And I'm just grateful, and I'm glad that we're pushing along this journey all together. And the other families that's been victimized, I'm happy to see mothers, sisters, and all of them come out to speak for their loved ones and their brothers and their sisters and they daughters, you know. Yeah, it's very hard to feel that pain, but it's good to let the people know why we're out there and why we're here to fight for justice. Absolutely. And I'm glad this changed to defund the police and Jackie Lacey Must Go.
Say that, yes. So every Wednesday, and what Trisha is lifting up is every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We're in front of 211 West Temple. That's the Hall of Injustice, as we call it, demanding that Jackie Lacey go. And we've been doing that. We've been planting those seeds for the last 3 years at the call, at the urging of Trisha Michael. And as we go, every week, there's dozens of families who come out. There's 622 people who've been stolen by police violence on Jackie Lacey's watch. And Keisha Michael is one heartbreaking example of a mother, of a twin sister, of a daughter, of an auntie who's been stolen by police violence. And we demand justice in her name. And so, Trisha, I also want to come right back to you in just a second, because there's some things that are moving around the election and around some pledges that have been made that I want to make sure that you're aware of and kind of get your take on those things. Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to pull Tabatha Jones Jolivet into the conversation. Dr. Tabatha Jones Jolivet. I mentioned prosecutekillercops.org. We'd love everybody to log on to that website. It is our 21st century red record, honoring and giving praise and trying to walk in the footsteps, the huge shoes that, not literally, I don't think she had big feet, but the huge shoes of Mama Ida B. Wells, who painstakingly documented the lynchings of the late 19th and early 20th century in her red record. This is our contemporary red record. And Tabatha Jones Jolivet is leading much of that work, of course, in collaboration with a team, but is lifting up that we say the individual name of Keisha Michael, and I should have said it before Trisha went off camera, but maybe Tabatha and Trisha, if you can hear me, if you could come back on just for a second. And Tab, you stay on as well. We just want to say Keisha Michael's name. We believe that by saying the names of the people on whose behalf we struggle, we actually invoke their spirit and give them honor. And so Trisha might be handling something. So maybe Tabatha and I can do this as Trisha is handling other duties. I know it's right around bedtime. Oh, you're here. Great. So we just, before you go off camera, and I should have done it before, so forgive me, can we say the name Keisha Michael? And you're muted, so if you could go off mute. So we're gonna say her name, say her name.
Keisha Michael.
Say her name.
Keisha Michael.
Say her name.
Keisha Michael.
And we pray that she hears us and that the struggle that we offer in her name does justice. We're so grateful for you, Sister Trish, and we'll be right back with you in just a second, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Tabatha, you know, as we talk about Keisha Michael, it's important to give honor to her, to recognize that she leaves 3 sons without a mother. They have a loving grandmother and grandfather. They have a loving auntie, but they don't have their mom. And it's important to lift up Keisha. And it's also important to remember that there are 621 more with stories of their own. And can you talk a little bit about why it was important for us to launch ProsecuteKillerCops.org and how it connects with this call for Jackie Lacey to go?
Yeah, so thank you, Melina, and thank you especially to Trisha for really invoking all of us in this struggle. When we think about the 622 people whose lives have been stolen by law enforcement, it was important for us to document that their lives were stolen because in Los Angeles County, much like we see all across the country, right, including most recently in the announcement in Kentucky, where there was a failure or refusal to hold law enforcement accountable. That has been happening on Jackie Lacey's watch since she took office in 2013. Of the 622 people whose lives have been stolen, only 1 of those cases went to some form of a charge. Only 1 out of 622. And so what we've seen, Melina, which I think is really lifted up in stories like Keisha's and Mark Quentin's story, right? In stories like Waukesha Wilson's and John Horton's or Cesar Rodriguez's, that there is an absolute refusal to hold law enforcement accountable and an absolute collusion between law enforcement and the district attorney. And so I remember when the call first came out from you, Trish, 3 years ago, almost this month, when you said we must hold the district attorney accountable for refusing to prosecute the police. And I just felt immediately that it was important to be responsive to the calls of our families. When I think about the everyday struggles that you have in the face of this trauma, in the face of losing your family members, right, to law enforcement and the ways in which they murder our people. And for that to be layered with a refusal by a district attorney and a Black woman, I should add, to take seriously those deaths, it's enraging. it's horrifying. And so I felt that we needed to do something to be responsive. And so we joined the families in showing up every week to Jackie Lacey's office. And we also felt that it was important to document every single theft of life so that people understood that we have family members who had a right to live, who had a right to live whole and full lives, right, in the way that we've already talked about. And so it was important for us to document the fact that their lives had been stolen by the police. And so when you go to prosecutekillercops.org, you will see that every single case is rigorously researched and documented with publicly available information that, to be candid, often remains hidden, not only to families who deserve to know what happened to their loved ones, but also hidden from the public, who has a right to be protected by community. And we know that, again, the system of law enforcement, as we can repeatedly call, this system continuously disregards Black life, steals Black life, and therefore we know that the system needs to be defunded. And as part of our strategy to move in the direction of reimagining public safety, we also know that it's really important to hold district attorneys accountable when they refuse to do their jobs. And so that is why, in large part, the Red Record has been an important part of our work this summer.
Thank you, Tabatha. And it's really important to lift up that, people say, well, aren't all DAs guilty? This is a national issue, right? District attorneys generally are in bed with police and every other case. Why is Jackie Lacey special? Well, one of the things that we know is when you look at that number, 622, every other locale pales in comparison. Are there other reasons that Jackie Lacey is unique in her position? In fact, let's pull in Kendrick into that conversation. Kendrick Sampson, actor, activist, my brother from another mother, chant leader, all of those things. Got on a whole shirt today, kind of. Wow.
Got my side covered up.
So you come out every single Wednesday. You help to organize folks to come out every single Wednesday. And sometimes I see on your profile, they'll say, actor and activist. You're really, and I don't know any other actors who are this. You're really an actor and an organizer, because it's not just about you coming out. You actually organize people to come out. You actually organize the campaigns. You actually sit with us and strategize and text at 4:00 in the morning and say, what we gonna do next, right? So I really don't know any entertainers / organizers other than you. And I just think it's phenomenal. I think the world of you. I think it's phenomenal. And I'd love for you to lift up that question that I initially posed to Tabatha, but I'd love for you to get in on. District attorneys all over the country are in bed with police. District attorneys all over the country refuse to prosecute. We just saw what the attorney general did in Kentucky, and went to the grand jury, gave them jacked up, well, we can cuss on here, gave them fucked up instructions. And then we got no prosecution for the police who killed Breonna Taylor, right? We know that that's true when we look at the murder of Tamir Rice. We know that it's true when we look at the murder of Yvette Henderson. We know that it's true when we talk about Riddell Jones. We know that it's true in a vast number of cases, and we only know about some of these cases because they buck the trend. So when we think about even the prosecution, that Amber Geiger was even charged in the murder of Botham Jean, we know that that was an exception to a rule. That Johannes Meserly was charged in the murder of Oscar Grant was an exception to a rule. So if DAs across the country are not charging police, why is Jackie Lacey special? Why is she particularly problematic?
I mean, across 7 years, it's been 622. So it's the amount of people who have died on her watch, who have been murdered on her watch. It's also that this county, she has a lot of power. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we are the largest county in Los Angeles County is the largest county in the United States. I should have done a little Google before I said it, but I'm pretty sure that is true. If we're not number one, we are number two. And that gives her a lot of power over people's lives. And she has taken money from what I like to call police organized crime. They are not unions. They are not organized labor. They are not part of the labor movement. They are actually counter to the labor movement. And she is beholden to them, and tries to profess to be more progressive. She's not progressive at all, but try to profess or put this facade on that she is a progressive DA. And so it's dangerous, it's dangerous to make people think that. And you have Mayor Garcetti, who continues to be complicit in this as well, and stand by someone as heinous as Chief Moore. And she has a lot of resources to continue to oppress and be complicit. And it's beyond like silence is violence. I know a lot of people hear that. If you're not speaking up, if you're not speaking out and getting involved in the work, that you are complicit, but it goes beyond that. And it's actually actions that she's taking to be complicit in these murders and to cover up this is just talking about the murders, right? This is the 622 are people who have been murdered by police in Los Angeles County. Then there are other crimes that fall outside of that. There's Ed Buck and his murder, not him being murdered, but him murdering a young Black man. And there is other police misconduct that she overlooks or helps cover up. And so there's an extensive history of corruption and being a co-conspirator in that corruption by her actions, and being particularly well-resourced. Melina, am I wrong? Los Angeles is the largest county in the United States, right? Or the second largest?
I believe it's the largest, but here's what's worse. I'm a political scientist, so I should definitely know, but I'm almost positive it's the largest. And I hope Dr. Tabatha Jones Jolivet, who's not on camera right now, is Googling and will give us the answer. So don't blame us, because everybody ran in here to be on time. Remember, this is not really our job. This is just something we do because we believe it's our sacred duty. So we don't always have all the data right here, but at least we don't make it up like some people who occupy the White House, right?
Right.
So I'm almost positive it's the largest. Tabatha Googled it and dropped it in the chat. Yes, it's the largest. Okay, so yeah, we could have just said it, but we didn't want to be saying stuff that was wrong, right? So this also tells you, right, that you can fact check us. Because here's another lie that Jackie Lacey has been telling as of late, because she wants to both appeal to the police associations who are funding her reelection, right? She's received millions of dollars. They've pledged $10 million in support of Jackie Lacey. That's ALAD's, that's the Sheriff's Association. Association of Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs is what it stands for. and LAPPL, Los Angeles Police Protective League. This is why we don't call them unions. They don't have the word union in their name, right? They're protective leagues and they are associations. They are not unions. I'm a union member. You're a union member. Unions are not just committed to protecting those who are members of their unions. Unions are supposed to be for the overall well-being of working class people. And police associations are for the narrow, very narrow interests of their members who are there to protect capital at the expense of every other working class person. So I refuse to call police associations unions, right? So she's backed by these police associations. She's funded by these police associations. And she still tries to pretend like, right? You know, we say all the time, we can't be in front of her office without saying the words of Zora Neale Hurston, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. She will quickly invoke in front of Black people that she went to Dorsey High School and she's from the Crenshaw district. Well, you live in Granada Hills now, homie, and you are representing the interests of the police, not the people. And so it's important that we lift that up as well. So anyway, Kendrick, you brought it up and then I went on a rampage about how she ain't our folk. What were you gonna say about that?
I don't remember. Well, it's just that she has I was hammering home what I already said, which is that she has a lot of resources. With that largest district comes a huge budget, money, and she utilizes that to oppress on top of being funded by, I didn't even say police associations, I just said organized crime. But that's exactly what I was talking about, the sheriffs and the police associations. But yeah, she's, and that is true as well. Like there's her and Daniel J. Cameron and a lot of folks, when you know, there is a whole movement to diversify white supremacist institutions. And at the end of the day, someone usually, unless somebody breaks into, if we together don't put somebody in that place through a movement, right, to like break down barriers and walls and force somebody into that seat that represents our interests and hold them accountable, then Jackie Lacey is a great example of them putting who they want in that seat and making it look like they're for us. So putting a Black face in a white space, putting a Black face in a high place, right? That's what Daniel J. Cameron is. That's what, and they pick people that will represent their interests more than anybody else, that will compromise to represent the oppressor. And so, as we're fighting for abolition, right, of these institutions in total, like making sure it's not just police. Police need to be defunded and abolished. Sheriffs need to be defunded and abolished at the roots. You know, they need to be ripped up, and you know, that whole system needs to be burned. And we need to have community-based systems that we start of accountability, of healing, of love, radical love of our communities. But we have to start building those right now because we believe that they will be abolished, right? We have to show that we believe it, and we need to start building up those systems right now to protect our people and to love our people and to heal our people, so that when those systems are abolished, we can utilize those resources to embolden and build up and fortify those community-based systems. But until then, until we reach that, it's not just the police and the sheriffs, it's these all these white supremacist institutions. The entire legal system was in this country was formed to oppress. It has always been operated that way because that was the intention behind it. And until we replace that system with something that is actually intended to hold people accountable and to be for the community first, and to give the community what they need, and to heal folks, and to have that as its intention and its core. Until we have that ideal system in place, we have to utilize whatever tools we have. We have to force the hand of the systems that are in place. So we need to make sure that whoever gets in there next knows, when they see what happens to Jackie Lacey this election, this November 3rd, when they see what happens to Jackie Lacey, they know that they are going to be held accountable to that same standard. And if we don't like what they're doing, we're going to remove them like we removed Jackie Lacey.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's so many points I want to pick up on. I'm going to circle back to this point you made about abolitionism later, when you talked about the importance of visioning an end to the entire system, but there are things that we have to do right now, right? But I want to point to kind of what's happening in November, right, with this election. And I'd love to bring Sister Trish back in, because Trisha, I don't know if you saw this statement that was released yesterday, this open letter that was released yesterday by Jackie Lacey's opponent, George Gascon. And I want to be very, very clear. Black Lives Matter doesn't endorse candidates. And that's been one of the wisest stances we've ever taken. A lot of progressive organizations, for instance, endorsed Alex Villanueva as sheriff because they thought he was more progressive than the previous sheriff, right? Jim McDonnell. And so a lot of folks endorsed Villanueva. Now, Villanueva, they're calling the Trump of Los Angeles County, right? He is completely enabling sheriff's deputies to just kill Black people, brown people, poor people with impunity, right? And so we're grateful that we had the foresight years ago to say we're not going to endorse candidates as an organization. So we're not endorsing George Gascon, but if Jackie Lacey must go, she has one opponent on November 3rd, right? And so this is now me talking as an individual, not as a member of Black Lives Matter. I thought, did you see the open letter he released? Okay, so we have, you haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so you do know that George Gascon has made several overtures to try to reach out to families, try to get Black Lives Matter to meet with him, which is the exact opposite of what Jackie Lacey has done, right? She's refused our meetings, right? She's refused to talk about cases. She's refused to say, why won't she prosecute the 5 officers who killed your sister, right? And we, on the other side, have George Gascon saying, well, will you meet with me? Will you talk with me about your case? And yesterday, he released an open letter that committed to looking into reopening at least 4 cases. And he named the 4 cases. And 2 of the cases that we're very close with are Brendan Glenn, the murder of Brendan Glenn. He's committed to reopening that case, and he's committed to reopening Christopher DeAndre Mitchell's case, right? Who was killed in Torrance. And we've had a weekly protest in Torrance, very similar. That protest is modeled after what we did in Inglewood, right? Going to the city council meeting every single week in the name of Christopher DeAndre Mitchell. He's also said that he's gonna re-examine several open cases, including the murder of Ryan Twyman, the murder of Andres Guardado, and the murder of Dejan Kizee. And there's other cases, of course, that he's open to looking at. He has said that these cases are the ones that come up for him initially. But I'm wondering if it gives you any hope around reopening the case of Trisha Michael. If he's gonna reopen the case for Brendan Glenn and for Christopher DeAndre Mitchell, and in Christopher's case, we have video showing the horror of that murder. But what we don't have is a ruling on the officers who stole his life. And just so everybody can be aware, the officers who stole the life of Christopher DeAndre Mitchell, their names are Anthony Chavez and Matthew Concannon. Anthony Chavez and Matthew Concannon of the Torrance Police Department. So you should see them as armed and dangerous. Everybody should be aware of who they are. That's why we launched ProsecuteKillerCops.org, so that when you see these cops, you know that they've stolen lives in the past, and that you know that, remember, they used to have, like, if you watched Westerns, they'd say armed and dangerous and have, you know, most wanted posters. This is our kind of most wanted poster to say that these officers stole Christopher DeAndre Mitchell's life. We know that there's 5 officers who stole Trisha Michael's life. Does it give you hope, Sister Trish, that, you know, Jackie Lacey's opponent has said that she's not right in these rulings, and I'm going to open some of these cases back up?
Yes, it does give me hope. And it just takes me back to when we had 50,000 petitions done and took it to her office, and she refused to see the family. We set up this meeting for her to come and speak to the families personally. And she went on public saying that she wouldn't want to speak to nobody. Actually, she haven't sat down with not one family that I've known of. It does kind of give me hope if he's get elected, that he'll reopen my case, because it's supposed to still be under investigation. They still haven't really gave us no
They
definite.
never issued the letter for Trisha.
No, they haven't gave us a letter yet.
So 4 years later, they have not issued the letter?
No, and Jackie Lacey haven't sent us nothing. We don't have nothing. We still, it's kind of weird. I don't know, what she's doing.
Usually it's 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little over a year, because the police finish their investigation of themselves.
2017, yeah.
And then 3 years, and then they send the case over to
DA
Jackie Lacey.
Yes.
And she issues a ruling.
Right.
But it's very rare that it's been this long. Oh, right, because it's February, so it's almost 4 years.
Almost, yeah. So we're not sure yet. But yeah, she she just haven't been consistent as a district attorney, and it's breaking families' heart. And this is why we go out there, that she needs to go. And yeah, it does kind of give me hope the next opponent is able to go look into these cases. And yeah, I would really, really like him to get in office and serve the people like they supposed to.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that would bring, I can imagine that it brings additional pain to not even be able to see a determination.
Right.
Yeah, why, right? Are you going to prosecute or not, and why, right? So,
and even doing the FOIA Act, still haven't got no response from that. So it's like they dragging their feet, and Jackie Lacey is just letting this happen. And we just got to keep on fighting and letting the people know to vote her out.
And the FOIA Act that you're talking about is actually the passage of Senate Bill 1421, which you also worked on. We wanted police transparency.
Yes.
And there's a law in the state of California that that went into place January 2019 that says that you're entitled to the public records around police killings. We were one of very few states that didn't allow the public access to those records, and now we're entitled to it. But the city of Inglewood, much like LA County sheriffs, has refused to turn over those records despite the law. And Jackie Lacey is not. What's interesting is that's a criminal act, right? She's not prosecuting them for that either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tabatha, I'd like to bring you back into this conversation around, so we've talked a lot about the killing of our people at the hands of police. And we also know that that's not her only crime as a district attorney, right? That as a district attorney, the blood of 622 people on your hands is a lot. That should be enough of a crime. But this is not the only thing that she's done, right? So we can talk about the death penalty. We can talk about marijuana prosecutions. We can talk about sexual harassment. Can you give us some of those examples? Kendrick referenced Ed Buck and, this wealthy political donor who she refused to prosecute even after he killed 2 Black men in his apartment, Jamel Moore and Timothy Dean. And only after he tried and failed to kill a 3rd Black man, a 3rd gay Black man that he stalked and drugged and attempted to murder, he finally got caught and was finally prosecuted only after, the tenacity and the vigilance of people like Jasmine Canick, people like the extended family of Jamel Moore, the blood family of Jamel Moore, who lives in Texas and would come in and out of town to fight for justice in his name. Can you tell us about why Jackie Lacey must go beyond the 622 names, which she lies and says there's not 622, but we got them on record, right? There's no way we're making up names and dates and faking incidents, right? So there's absolutely 622, if not more, because we could have missed some, but there's none on there that shouldn't be, right? Can you talk about 1, why that number holds, and 2, and I started to go off, I'm sorry about that. I got a big mouth and when I'm tired, I can't stop talking.
That's all right.
So that number and why that number holds, but also other crimes that Jackie Lacey has committed.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad that you and Kendrick both already lifted up her refusal to prosecute Ed Buck, right? And in addition to that, one of the things that we've talked about in Black Lives Matter that we've lifted up with corroborated evidence, because we've got receipts, right? And that's the point here, is that Jackie Lacey has a list of 7 deadly sins. So in addition to what you've described, the refusal to prosecute Ed Buck, she has also been the first to pursue death penalty cases, and exclusively the people that she targets are in fact people of color in those cases. That is an example of a racist practice that we know is being refuted across the country and across the world. And yet this DA has consistently pursued death penalty cases against people of color and Black people in particular. She's also refused to, in the height of the Me Too movement, right? She's refused to prosecute police when they have rape allegations, right? And that fosters a culture of violence that perpetuates the kind of rape culture that we think is so vicious. So on her hands, this culture of violence coupled with a culture of sexual harassment has been maintained and reproduced. She relies on the corrupt testimony of law enforcement when seeking to review the very cases that we're talking about. So instead of seeking support outside of the system of law enforcement, right, which is designed and set up to protect the police, she's refused to seek external resources to review these cases and prosecute them by relying especially on the testimony of corrupt police and corrupt law enforcement officials. You've mentioned, of course, her refusal to expunge marijuana convictions, despite the fact that we've seen, again, how these convictions are often highly racialized and disproportionately target Black people. And all of that is coupled with her absolute ordering and harassment of protesters. She has criminalized Black Lives Matter protesters, and she has criminalized protests in general. And so these are the kinds of conditions that we have to think about in Los Angeles County. And these are the kinds of conditions that we're seeing in places like Portland, in places all across the country. These are the very things that someone like Donald Trump stands for. And we have a Black woman district attorney who's engaged in the same practices. So we have an obligation to call this out. not to mention all the ways in which the families continue to be victimized under a system where she refuses to hold police accountable. I think there's no other choice in Los Angeles County but to remove her from office. And this is why, again, we've been following the lead of our families, like Keisha Michael's family with her sister Trisha's call upon Black Lives Matter to ensure that in November we remove Jackie Lacey from office. We must do this, and we need everybody to get to the polls to do that.
I love these questions coming in the chat. And so anybody who wants to respond to the questions, and if you have questions, please drop them in the chat, in the comments. People are feeding them to us. And so if you have questions, please leave them in the comments, or leave them in the comments, and we'll get to as many as we can. There's a comment or a Facebook viewer asking, are we gonna be able to, why are we waiting until November? Can we get her out sooner than November? I love the enthusiasm of it. What you think, Tab, Kendrick, Trish? Can we get her out sooner than November 3rd? Is all we can do vote her out November 3rd, or is there more that we can do?
I think at this point, you know, we got a month, right? Now, my goal, so yes, my goal is always, even, you know, I say this with Trump and whoever else, to work outside of the systems that we have, to imagine other methods, and get creative and work outside of the systems that the oppressors set forth for us to achieve justice, and to you know, staff up the justice that we need, right? And so, yes, I believe that we can get her out, that it's possible. If you got some good strategy, you know, suggestions, then let us know, and or organize it yourself. But right now it's crunch time. We've got a month. A lot of people have pulled out endorsements, including, like, I know IATSE, and got Eric Garcetti. I believe Mayor Garcetti forced Mayor Garcetti to pull his.
Wait, did he actually? I thought he just said he was reconsidering, but he did. I got one for you though that happened today.
Who?
Herb Weston rescinded his endorsement.
Nice.
And Mike Gibson rescinded his endorsement.
Nice.
And we know that Adam Schiff rescinded his endorsement, and there's another member of Congress.
Oh, yeah. Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
Ted, was it Ted Lieu?
Ted Lieu. Well, look, here's what we're opening the door to. And the Los Angeles County, I'm on it. What is this? LA County Federation of Labor. See, I told y'all I'm tired. I've been saying I'm a union member. Los Angeles County Federation of Labor rescinded our endorsement. So every elected official who doesn't want blood to also be on their hands should be rescinding endorsements. Tabatha and Trish and
yes,
Kendrick.
Ted Lieu withdrew his endorsement.
It was Ted Lieu too.
Mm-hmm.
What else can regular people do? Because nobody really cares, you know, who we endorse, right? But for regular folks, what can we do? Because we just talked about that, you know, Jackie Lacey is back to the tune of $10 million by police association, or organized crime, as Kendrick put it. What can regular folks do? Because we don't have $10 million. What can we do to overcome their tens of millions of dollars that's behind Jackie Lacey? How can we make sure that we cut that off and use people power to overcome the power of money?
I was going to say one thing that we can do, and it's exactly what you lifted up. We don't have tens of millions of dollars, but we have people power. And I like to always say an African proverb as a way to remind me of the significance of our power, that when we pray, we move our feet. And one way that you can move your feet is join us in phone banking every week until the election. You'll find on all of our social medias at Black Lives Matter, as well as our ally organization, White People for Black Lives, you'll find that we are phone banking every weekend in anticipation of this election, because while you might be hearing for the first time that we need to remove Jackie Lacey from office, chances are people that you know and love might be hearing that for the first time too. So we need you to tell people, and we need you to join us in these phone banks. And then we're also going to be spending time walking in our communities, going door to door, telling folks, letting them know. Again, not all skin folk are kinfolk. And here's why Jackie Lacey must be removed from office. And so you can also be looking out for opportunities to join us in canvassing, to spread the word to our communities, to make sure that we show up. This is not the time to stay home and to not vote. We need to vote Jackie out of office. And the only way that we can do that is if we get people to vote, if we do the work to build the momentum. This momentum has been building now for 3 years, and we are 1 month away from being able to claim this as a people's victory. So I appeal to you to join us in those kinds of actions as part of demonstrating what it means to pray and move our feet at the same time.
Absolutely. So join the phone banks. Come out on Wednesdays, 3 p.m. on Wednesdays. You get to meet Kendrick Sampson if you come out on Wednesdays. He don't never miss a Wednesday, right? And you get to see why he's a chant leader on Wednesdays, right? But it's also, Kendrick, can you just describe that space? Because I think that what we've built over the last 3 years, but especially over the last several months, is really just a beautiful space, a powerful space where you can feel energy moving. Can you describe what we do on every Wednesday at 3 o'clock?
Yeah, you can come out and connect with like-minded folks, and we open up with libations, ceremony of making sure that we are honoring the ancestors that came before us, the liberators that came before us, and also those who have been murdered by police and white supremacy. And we lift up their names. We heal together, mourn together. It's cathartic. We hear from the families. The families come up and speak on behalf of their loved ones. And we shout down Babylon. We chant down Babylon. We make sure that everybody hears us. We got people. When we're talking about whatever tools you have at your disposal, bring them to the war, bring them to the fight. You have people coming out with speakers and stages. We ain't paying for none of this. This is people that come out, have made flags, have made banners, have made art. We do breath work. Ogie leads us in breath work. Just FYI, a little shout out to the Texas Coalition up here. We got, people from Texas all over the place. This Texas Cali Connect. But people come out and get it's a cathartic experience. It's and then you get the information you need. You hear people like Future, and you get a good education from Dr. Melly Mel and Tabatha, who will tell you the real information that you need to know. We hear the truth from the families themselves so that we can get that in our souls and our spirits and go out and spread that word. Go out and give some good gossip, spread the real truth, because that is what all of this does. All the mechanisms around are utilized as propaganda to suppress the truth, so that we think that these people are doing things that they're not, and that these systems are doing things that they're not. So we get to get out and spread the truth, and we get a bit of catharsis. We get to get our rage, direct our rage in the right direction, and get some marching orders. But it is important to show our numbers in the streets. We need as many people out there as possible, because it's one thing to see a bunch of tweets. It's another thing to see us pull up and actually show that we're about it, that we about that life.
That's right. That's right. I want to again just echo all of that.
And I forgot about prayer, and we pray. We definitely pray.
Yes. I want to echo all of that. There is a question that came in on Facebook that Philip is telling me not to answer, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I don't know how to shut up. 2 times people have asked about Jackie Lacey's husband pulling a gun on me, Dahlia, and Justin. So yes, we protest in front of Jackie Lacey's office. We had been protesting in front of her office for almost 3 years. And in March of this year, we decided she committed to meeting with us and refused to meet with us. So we know where she lives in Granada Hills. So we pulled up early in the morning in a bus with like 40 folks. And you know, her husband met us at the door when we went, after we prayed, after we poured libations, after we'd done a land acknowledgement. He met us at the door with a large caliber handgun. He pointed the gun out the door and pointed it directly at my chest and said the words, "I will shoot you." You can pull it up. It's on video. You can watch the whole thing yourself. I won't say too much more because there is an investigation. There is a case going on. Jackie Lacey has doubled down and cast herself as a victim when really it's the 622 families who she has signed off on their murders at the hands of police. And it's the protesters who've decided that it's our sacred duty to stand up and to fight back against oppressive systems who are the victim. Not once did she sympathize with me as a single mom of 3 kids having a gun pointed at my chest, right? Not once did she sympathize with my children who were terrified, who were in school. This is before the pandemic, right before the pandemic. Heard on the news what had happened and were terrified that their mother might be killed. And so this is the kind of person that we have in the district attorney's office. And so when you ask what happened, that's what happened. He is still facing charges, 3 counts against, you know, for I forgot what the actual charge is, but for each of us who was threatened, there were 3 of us on the porch. He's facing charges by the Attorney General's office. That to me is enough. Like if your husband is pulling guns on people and you're supposed to be the chief law enforcement officer of the county, you're not qualified to do your job, right? 622 deaths on your watch. That's more than enough, right? And so for all those reasons, Jackie Lacey must go. I want Trisha Michael to close us out. I know we're a little over time, but we started a little late. So if you could just give us some last words, Sister Trish, before we make an announcement and jump off. We really appreciate hearing your voice and hearing what it means to you, why you want people to vote in November, and why you said Jackie Lacey must go and defund the police. Why are those things important to you? You're on mute still.
It's important to me and everybody because this is for our kids, our kids' future. My nephews, their mom got getting murdered, and now held accountable for them and to put them behind bars. And defunding the police is important to me because they're the ones taking monies from taxpayers and then allowing police to kill our people, and then taking taxpayers' money to pay off families, but not taking the time to utilize the system and actually prosecute these officers instead of taking taxpayers' money every time they commit something foul. Hold them accountable, their pensions, their money. I feel like if you mess with their money, then that way they won't have the opportunity to even have a second thought to kill somebody, you know, for any type of negligence. It's important for the families and the future of our kids that also police and higher people that's higher than the system to really, really, really be out there and make our own changes, us as people, you know, determine our own future, determine our own life, determine our kids' life. The government have too much control over the people, and we need to stand up to being bullied, because this is like being bullied, and that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we just want to thank you for your vision, for your strength, for leading us, Sister Trish. It was your vision that got us to even focus on Jackie Lacey, and you were so right in making that call. We're grateful for you. We're grateful to be struggling alongside you. I want to also thank Dr. Tabatha Jones Jolivet for leading that brilliant research. Please again visit prosecutekillercops.org. Thank you for putting in so many hours of work, for never complaining when you have to make the long drive in. We know that you don't live that close, and you always come in, you always give your heart, your spirit, your soul, your brilliance to this work. Thank you, Sister Tab. Thank you, Brother Kendrick, for being my brother from another mother, for always joining, for never saying no, for always saying yes. And you're still here. I thought you had to hop off. Thank you for that. We want to thank Pro Bono ASL for always being our partners at Jackie Lacey Must Go protests, for This Is Not a Drill, for everything we do. We're grateful that you make the work that we do accessible. Thank you, Pro Bono ASL. Thank you, Philip and Megan, for the tech support. And dun, 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 the last thing we want to do, Megan, did you get my message in there? I hope you did. Is we want to pull up the flyer for Saturday. You got it? Please have it.
Megan. Hold on, yep, I got it. Hold on.
She got it. I knew you wouldn't fail me. We want to invite everybody, but especially Black women, in this moment when the world is telling us that we are the mules of the world, when they are, that's another quote from our beloved ancestor, Zora Neale Hurston, when they're telling us that we're the mules of the world, we need to remember that that's not who we are. Black women are divine. They stole the life of Trisha Michael. They stole the life of Breonna Taylor. They stole the life of Waukesha Wilson and Riddell Jones and Yvette Henderson and Michelle Shirley and Shailene Graves, and I could keep going, but that doesn't mean we have to submit to their definition of who we are. So on Saturday, day after tomorrow, in Norman Houston Park, we are going to be having an afternoon that reclaims our divinity, in the name of Breonna Taylor, but also in the name of Trisha Michael. So please join us. Tabatha and I will be there. I hope Sister Trish will join us, and bring your mom too. All Black women are invited to come and eat and celebrate and dance and be treated to acupuncture and life coaching and foot baths and massage and art and music. And Kendrick's getting us some great singers to come out. Please come and partake if you are a Black woman. If you are not a Black woman, please come and make an offering. Bring flowers, bring gift cards, bring something that honors Black women as divine beings, that rejects this notion that police have the right to come into our homes and kill us in our sleep, that police have the right to come steal the mothers of 3 boys, right? The mother of 3 boys as she was sleeping or unconscious in her car with her partner, right? Police don't have the right to steal our lives, and this world doesn't have the right to make us mules. We are divine. Come out on Saturday, beginning at 12 noon in Norman Houston Park. For people who are going, where is that? That's the park on the corner of Stocker and La Brea, and we hope to see you there. We hope to be back next Thursday for This Is Not a Drill. Every Thursday at 7 p.m. on this platform, we're going to be sharing with you information about the elections, about what's going on in the world for Black people, All of the things that we think are important are going to be right here on This Is Not a Drill. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, we're at BLMLA. On Instagram, we're at BLM Los Angeles. And you're watching us right here on Facebook, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles on Facebook. Until next time, thank you. Peace.